Yeah! On top of the car. Wasn't even my car or my baby. Ah!
More than half a century has passed, but the Partridge Family still evokes an entire era of television filled with music, laughter, and familiar faces. Behind the characters who once appeared on screen together are very different journeys. Some continued with Hollywood, some found new paths, and some chose a quieter life. Today, we will look back at those stories with respect and authenticity. If you ever loved the show, please comment on the character you remember most. Hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell to join us. In the Partridge Family, Danny Partridge was the boy who always seemed to be a step ahead of everyone else. With his quick wit, confidence, and natural comedic timing, the character quickly became one of the standout faces of the series. Danny Bonaducci was only about 11 years old when he took on the role, but his humor helped the character of Danny make a distinct mark alongside the older members of the Partridge Family. Remarkably, Bonaducci did not vanish from the public eye after the show ended. Rather than relying solely on childhood fame, he continued to try his hand in various fields, particularly in radio and television.
Since it's our first album, it's got to be good. May not get a second chance
To do our best.
Sure we will, but with so many recordings coming out,
His path to adulthood wasn't always stable, but those career shifts showed that someone known from an early age could still seek new directions as circumstances changed. In later years, health issues led Bonaducci to gradually scale back his radio activities and opt for a more private lifestyle. After decades in the public eye, it is a completely different chapter compared to the high-energy image of the young Danny that audiences once knew.
Brother, of which I have two, who often don't like me that much. And sometimes did some talk show recently talking about how his favorite day on the Partridge Family was the day he threw me.
Danny Bonaducci's story is therefore not just about a famous child actor. It also shows that people can change many times in their lives without being limited by the image that first made them famous. And while Bonaducci entered television at a very young age, the next character came to the Partridge Family after accumulating decades of experience in the profession. When Rosemary DeCamp appeared as Amanda Renfrew, she brought a completely different nuance to the Partridge Family. Amanda was a member of the family's older generation, and DeCamp's presence gave the show's world a sense of closeness, warmth, and multi-generational appeal. But before joining the series in 1970, Rosemary DeCamp was already an experienced artist with many years in radio, film, and television. This made the role of Amanda not a beginning, but just one chapter in her very long career. DeCamp was the kind of supporting actor audiences might encounter across many different films and shows, not necessarily always at the center, but often bringing reliability and depth to every character she portrayed. After the Partridge Family, she continued to work and remained a familiar face to many generations of viewers. Rosemary DeCamp passed away in 2001, concluding a career that spanned over 6 decades. What remains is not just a grandmother role on TV, but a whole process of persistent craftsmanship through very different stages of the American entertainment industry. The value in DeCamp's journey lies in persistence rather than glory. A long career is sometimes built not by a single famous moment, but by the ability to perform each role well over many years. And from an artist who had a solid foundation before coming to the show, we move to an actor whose greatest achievements appeared after his time on the Partridge Family. Howard Lipton might not be the first name audiences think of when remembering the Partridge Family, but actor Richard Mulligan went on to build a television career much more notable than this appearance. Mulligan joined the show in the early 1970s, a time when he was still developing his name and defining his acting style. Roles during this period became part of his accumulation of experience before he moved into projects that made him more widely known. Mulligan's greater success came after the Partridge Family, particularly through sitcoms like Soap and Empty Nest. Those roles earned him critical acclaim and solidified his comedic ability on television. Rather than being tied to a short-lived appearance, Mulligan continued to grow and build a career spanning many decades. Richard Mulligan passed away in 2000 at the age of 67. But looking back at his professional path, the most memorable part is not the ending, but the step-by-step progression.
Got rid of some bad habits, and you came through nicely, and I know if you're too. And I know if he were here right now, he'd give you one of these.
A small role does not define an actor's limits, and a moment before fame cannot predict the entire future. The core value in Mulligan's story is long-term development. Success sometimes doesn't arrive as soon as one starts, and what seems like small jobs today can become the foundation for much larger opportunities years later. 3 people, 3 different starting points, but they together leave a valuable reminder. There is no single formula for a meaningful career. What matters is how each person continues to move forward when an old chapter has closed. If Richard Mulligan's story has you thinking about the journey of building a long-term career, please share your thoughts in the comments. And if you love stories about actors, the turning points behind the scenes, and their journeys after familiar roles, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos. Your companionship is our motivation to continue bringing more authentic, meaningful, and memorable stories. When the Partridge Family debuted in 1970, Susan Dey was only 18 years old and almost immediately became one of the faces loved by young audiences. In the role of Laurie Partridge, she brought the image of a calm, confident eldest daughter who seemed more mature than her younger siblings. The success of the series brought Dey to a massive audience, but the most remarkable part of her career lay in what happened after the Partridge Family left the screen. Instead of trying to maintain a teen star image forever, Dey gradually sought more mature characters. A major turning point came when she joined LA Law. Her role in this series allowed Dey to prove that her talent was not limited by her initial success and brought her significant recognition in the television field.
Oh, come on. You can't tell me that in the last 4 years, you didn't once wish you were singing.
Later on, Susan Dey gradually withdrew from regular acting and kept her personal life more private. This was a different choice than many artists who maintain a constant public presence, but it also shows that fame doesn't necessarily have to be prolonged at all costs.
It's been a lot of years and a lot of fun and a lot of ups and a lot of downs, no matter what. Because life is great. There are a lot of people.
The memorable value in Susan Dey's journey lies in the ability to step out from the shadow of her first role. Early success can open a door, but it is continued development that decides how far an artist will go. And the next character shows us a path that is almost the opposite, becoming famous when too young to truly understand what Hollywood was. Rick Siegel was just a young boy when he appeared in the later seasons of The Partridge Family. As Ricky Stevens, a neighbor boy brought into the world of The Partridge Family, Siegel brought youthful energy and a new color to the show. He was only about 4 years old when he started appearing, making this one of his first professional experiences from a very young age. However, appearing in a famous sitcom did not lead Siegel to a life centered solely around Hollywood. After The Partridge Family, he still had some activities in television and entertainment, but gradually stopped pursuing the image of a child star in the way audiences might have expected. In later years, Siegel has still occasionally participated in discussions and activities related to memories of classic television. That allows him to look back at that special time as one part of his life, rather than letting it become his entire identity. Rick Siegel's story reminds us that being famous from childhood doesn't force a person to spend the rest of their life chasing fame. Sometimes maturity is having the right to decide what from the past should be kept and what can be left behind. But in the next case, the person who entered the Partridge Family had already spent almost an entire lifetime on stage before appearing alongside the young cast. When Ray Bolger appeared as Fred Renfrew, he brought something no young actor in the Partridge Family could have had at the time: decades of performing experience. Bolger was already a veteran artist long before stepping into the world of the Partridge Family. Thus, his appearance was not merely a guest role. His energy, comedic ability, and stage experience helped Fred Renfrew become a relatable grandfather figure, while creating a natural connection between many generations on the show. Even at an age when many choose to rest, Bolger continued to appear on television and remained active in the entertainment industry. He passed away in 1987, closing a career that spanned various eras of American stage, film, and television. What is admirable about Ray Bolger is not just his longevity, it is also his ability to continue adapting as the entertainment industry changed. Experience doesn't make an artist obsolete if they still retain curiosity and a love for the work. One generation can learn from the previous one, while the older generation can find new life working alongside young faces. And the next story takes us back to the youngest member of the Partridge Family. Suzanne Croft was about 7 years old when she became Tracy Partridge, the youngest daughter of the family. Tracy wasn't the character with the most lines and rarely occupied the center of an episode. But Croft's naturalness made her quickly become a familiar part of the Partridge Family image. After the show ended, Croft didn't try to maintain a Hollywood career at any cost. She gradually moved away from acting, dedicating more time to family life and later working outside the entertainment industry. That was a shift quite far from a childhood seen by millions of TV viewers every week. Suzanne Croft passed away in 2015 at the age of 52. For those who grew up with the Partridge Family, the image of Tracy is preserved as part of the television era they loved. But Croft's real life was much broader than the years she spent in front of the camera. The value in Suzanne Croft's story lies in the right to choose a different life after fame. Leaving Hollywood doesn't mean a journey has become less meaningful. Sometimes, success is simply finding where you want to belong when the spotlight is no longer at the center. Susan Dey continued to prove herself with mature roles. Rick Siegel did not let childhood fame define his future. Ray Bolger showed the value of experience, while Suzanne Croft chose a life further away from Hollywood. 4 very different paths, yet they collectively suggest one thing. The most memorable part isn't how long someone was famous, but how they built their life when the role ended. Perhaps every viewer has a character in the Partridge Family who left them with an unforgettable memory. What do you think makes those characters still remembered after many decades? Please share your thoughts in the comments. If you love stories about the real journeys of stars behind the spotlight, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell to join us in exploring more special stories in the next videos. Bert Convy came to the Partridge Family at a time when he was still expanding his path in the entertainment industry. As Richard Lawrence, he wasn't the central character of the series, but that appearance fell within an important phase before Convy found the field that helped his name become more familiar to American audiences. In the years that followed, Convy didn't just continue acting. He gradually proved that his strength also lay in communication, quick reactions, and creating a comfortable atmosphere before the camera. Those qualities led him to the role of a host, especially through game shows like Tattletales and Super Password. This was not simply a side job, but became an important part of his career. That transition was notable because Convey didn't try to keep himself in a single mold. When he realized another ability could take him further, he was ready to step in a new direction. Bert Convey passed away in 1991 at the age of 57, but not before he had built a career spanning many different roles. Perhaps the thing to learn from Convey is precisely that flexibility. Not every change of direction means we chose wrong from the start. Sometimes it is those initial experiences that help a person recognize where they can truly best apply their abilities. From an artist who found greater opportunities in adulthood, the next story begins with a boy who entered the entertainment industry very early. Gary Dubin was only about 12 years old when he appeared in the Partridge Family as Punky Laser Danny's friend. His quickness and youthful air fit naturally with the situations surrounding the young group of characters, helping Punky become a recognizable face despite not being part of the main cast. Afterward, Dubin continued to appear in many television and film projects throughout the 1970s. That was a time when he was frequently seen on screen, but the transition from young actor to a long-term mature career did not happen at the same pace. Opportunities gradually became scarcer, and Dubin increasingly moved away from the public eye. Gary Dubin passed away in 2016 at the age of 57. For audiences who watched American TV in the 1970s, he remains one of the young faces tied to the memory of that period. Looking back at Dubin's journey, it wouldn't be fair to only ask why he didn't become a bigger star. Acting doesn't guarantee that teenage success will last for decades. What is more valuable is what an artist actually contributed during the time they had the chance to stand before an audience. A short role can still become a very long memory for viewers. And while Gary Dubin entered the Partridge Family just as he was beginning to explore the world of acting, the next actress already held an achievement that many artists spend a lifetime pursuing. Before the colorful bus of the Partridge Family appeared on television, Shirley Jones already had a solid position in the entertainment industry. She had succeeded in film and musical theater and had already won an Oscar before taking the role of Shirley Partridge. Therefore, the show did not create Jones's career. It opened a new chapter in an already very notable one.
Well, I was. That's why I asked my art class their opinion. They loved them.
They did?
Do you like my paintings, Laura?
In the series, Shirley Partridge was the one who held the family together amid performing schedules, humorous situations, and the energy of the young members. Jones portrayed the character with calmness and relatability, creating a necessary anchor for a show with so many young actors. Interestingly, after the Partridge Family closed, she did not view it as the end. Jones continued to work in film, television, and stage for many years, letting the role of Shirley Partridge be an important part, but not the entirety of her legacy. That journey shows that a long career sometimes isn't built by constantly seeking a moment bigger than the previous one. Shirley Jones has gone through many different stages, each with its own meaning. For an artist, the ability to continue practicing the craft without being trapped in past success is perhaps harder than achieving success in the first place. But a television show isn't just made by the faces at the center of the stage. Behind the main stars are also persistent actors who spend decades turning small characters into memorable people. Maxine Stewart already had many years of experience on stage and television before appearing in the Partridge Family. As Gloria Hofstetler, she didn't need to be the center of the story to create a sense of familiarity. Her natural acting style and long experience helped Stewart do what good supporting actors often do: step into an existing world and make the audience feel that their character truly belonged there. This role was also just a stop on her decades-long professional journey. Stewart continued to appear in projects for different generations of audiences rather than only tying herself to the TV era where she made her name. She passed away in 2013 at the age of 94. Looking back at Maxine Stewart's career, it's hard to pick a single role to represent all that she did. But perhaps that says the most about her. Stewart belonged to a class of actors who don't necessarily appear on every poster, but are constantly present in the stories that audiences love. Not everyone needs to become the main character for their work to be meaningful. There are careers built from dozens of small roles each appearance, and the trust an artist builds over many years. Maxine Stewart is such an example. The value of a professional sometimes lies not in how much spotlight they occupy, but in how much they enriched the stories they appeared in. Do you think small roles sometimes contribute to the soul of a movie or TV show? Share your views in the comments. If you love stories about the artists behind memorable screen moments, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next special journeys. Jeremy Gelbwaks entered the Partridge family at around 9 years old, becoming the first person to play Chris Partridge. For a young actor, appearing regularly on a hit TV show was a special experience, but Gelbwaks' time in the series was quite short. After the first season, he left the role, and Brian Forster took over the character of Chris from the next season. What makes Gelbwaks' journey interesting is what he did afterward. Rather than continuing to pursue acting and trying to keep a place in Hollywood, he gradually left the entertainment industry, shifting toward other fields like business and technology. For audiences, an actor leaving a show at a very young age can feel like an unfinished story. But from the person's perspective, it's sometimes just a different choice for the future. Jeremy Gelbwaks shows that a start in front of the camera doesn't have to lead to a lifetime in the spotlight. There are people who once appeared before millions of viewers, but later found a more suitable path in a completely different world. Not continuing to be famous doesn't mean a journey has stopped. Sometimes that's when a person's true path begins. From a child actor who left Hollywood quite early, the next story belongs to an artist who spent many years going through a series of shows with various roles. Elaine Giftos appeared in the Partridge family as Bonnie Kleinschmidt, a character not central to the story, but lively enough to make a mark in her appearances. When she came to the series in the early 1970s, Giftos was entering a phase where American TV opened many opportunities for actors with the ability to flex between different shows, and that became her way of building a career. Giftos didn't depend on a single role to keep her name. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, she continued to appear in many TV projects, gradually building an image as an actress who could adapt to many types of characters. There is a very practical side to this path. Hollywood often draws attention to explosive moments, but most acting careers are built from going to the studio, completing each role well, and continuing to be invited back. Elaine Giftos is a clear example of that kind of success. An artist doesn't necessarily need a single, most famous character to prove their value. Sometimes being able to work steadily over many years is a significant achievement. And while Giftos built her position through stability, the next person had to wait for another sitcom to find the role that would permanently link his name with the audience. Pat Harrington Jr. already had performing experience before appearing in the Partridge family. As Harry, he brought a type of humor suited to the chaotic but gentle situations characteristic of the series. However, looking only at this appearance, it would be hard to imagine that one of Harrington's most famous roles was still ahead of him. That turning point came with the sitcom One Day at a Time, where he took the role of Dwayne Schneider. The character became a milestone in Harrington's career and helped him become widely known to generations of TV viewers. Notably, that major success did not come in his early years. Harrington continued to accumulate experience through various roles before finding the character permanently tied to his name. He passed away in 2016 at the age of 86. Looking back, Pat Harrington Jr.'s journey has a very memorable patience. The most important opportunity doesn't always appear early. A person can still find the most prominent chapter of their career after years of quiet preparation for it. But for the next character, everything happened in almost the opposite way. Fame arrived very fast and on a scale few young actors could prepare for. When David Cassidy was cast as Keith Partridge at age 20, no one could be sure how much that role would change his life. In a short time, Keith's image helped Cassidy become one of the standout teen idols of the 1970s, with a massive fan base and a music career developing alongside the show's success. But becoming famous too fast also forced Cassidy to spend years trying to separate his real self from the image the public knew. After the Partridge Family, he continued to perform and pursue music, but the road to maturity was not always easy. Records also noted financial health and personal difficulties in his later years. David Cassidy passed away in 2017 at the age of 67. Looking back at his story, it would be too simple to only remember the crowded stages or the posters that once covered fans' bedrooms. Cassidy is also an example of the complex side of early fame. A public image can open countless opportunities, but can also become something an artist must learn to step out of. Perhaps what is most memorable is not how famous he once was, but the reminder that behind every idol is still a human being who needs to be viewed more broadly than the role that brought them to the public. After a star who once stood at the center of attention, the next story belongs to an artist who often appeared on the edge of the frame, but featured in many different television worlds. Mitzi Hoag belongs to a group of actors whom classic TV audiences might recognize instantly, despite not always remembering the name. In The Partridge Family, she appeared as Miss Farrell, but this role was just a small part of a career spanning many years. Hoag built her professional path mainly through guest and supporting roles in many TV shows. She didn't need a single character to become a milestone for her entire career. Instead, it was the volume and diversity of projects that created her mark. Records noted her work spanned television, film music, and voice acting. Mitzi Hoag passed away in 2019 at the age of 86 after more than 5 decades in the entertainment industry. Artists like Hoag are easily overlooked when TV history is retold only through the names of main stars, but a movie or sitcom cannot exist with only a few famous faces. It needs a whole team of people who can step into a small role, give the character personality, and leave after a few scenes, while still making the world on screen feel more complete. That is perhaps what is worth keeping from Mitzi Hoag's story. Not every contribution needs to be huge to be remembered. Sometimes it is hundreds of small parts done seriously over many years that create an admirable career. Brian Forster entered the Partridge Family in quite special circumstances. The character of Chris Partridge already had a familiar face. After Jeremy Gelbwax left the show, Forster took over the role in 1971 at about 11 years old. Replacing an actor in a series already followed by audiences can always feel different, but Forster quickly integrated with the cast and became the Chris many viewers remember in the following seasons.
Playing Chris on the Partridge Family. Soon, I'll be making a visit here in Livingston and this little race car driver, Tangella.
Notably, the experience of early fame didn't make him spend his life chasing Hollywood. When the years with the Partridge Family ended, Forster gradually moved away from the entertainment industry and chose a more private life. Occasionally, he still appears for events related to the show, but he doesn't seek to maintain public attention as a long-term goal. Looking back today, that decision makes Forster's story interesting in a very normal way. A child can once stand before millions of viewers, but as an adult, discover that the life they want lies elsewhere. The time on television was not lost just because he didn't continue acting. It remains a memorable part, but not the only part. There are chapters in life that are very prominent without needing to become the whole book. And the next character also only appeared in a small part of the Partridge Family before larger opportunities took her career in a completely different direction. When Meredith Baxter appeared in the Partridge Family, she was at the start of a career that would later span decades. The role of Jenny wasn't what made Baxter a big name, but looking back, now that appearance is like a photo of the actress right before more important milestones began to appear. Baxter's career moved forward significantly in the following years. She became widely known through Family and then became a familiar face of American TV with Family Ties. Those roles took her from guest actor to an artist with much greater recognition among audiences. What makes this journey notable is the gap between a small opportunity and what can follow it. When Baxter appeared in the Partridge Family, there was no guarantee she would become one of the familiar TV moms of the next generation. Her career was built gradually through each job rather than a single jump. It is a practical reminder for anyone at the start of their chosen path. A small opportunity does not define the future's limits. Some jobs only serve to open doors, and their true value only becomes clear when looking back years later. But in the case of the next artist, he already had a prominent place in American comedy before even stepping into the world of the Partridge Family. Arte Johnson didn't come to the Partridge Family seeking his first breakthrough. Before appearing as Morty Tinkler, he was already widely known to American audiences through Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, where his signature comedic style helped him become one of the recognizable faces of TV in the late 1960s and early 1970s. Thus, the Partridge Family was just a stop in Johnson's very diverse journey. Afterward, he continued to appear in films, TV shows, and other entertainment projects. Rather than tying his name to a single character, he built a career through his ability to constantly enter new spaces while retaining his own comedic personality. Arte Johnson passed away in 2019 at the age of 90. Looking back at that long road, Morty Tinkler may be a small note, but it shows something interesting about persistent artists. They often aren't defined by one role, but by the sum of their appearances that made audiences a bit happier. Johnson didn't need each new job to surpass previous success. He simply continued doing what he was good at in many different forms. A long career is sometimes not a race to constantly reach new peaks. It is the ability to keep one's joy and identity as the stage constantly changes. And while Johnson was a guest in the Partridge world for a short time, the next person was one of the characters who helped keep the whole family running through many seasons. Amidst a family always with a performance schedule, unexpected ideas, and all sorts of comedic situations, Reuben Kincaid was usually the one who had to try and pull everything back on track. Dave Madden turned the band's manager into a character both easily flustered and reliable, creating a very effective comedic contrast with the energy of the young members. Madden was more mature than most of the cast when the series started, and that experience helped him play a key role in the show's structure. Reuben didn't need to sing or stand at the center of the stage. The character's job was often to react to what was happening around him, and those reactions many times created the laughter. After the Partridge Family ended, Madden continued to work in entertainment and maintained a connection to the show through meetings with fans and old cast members. He passed away in 2014 at the age of 82. Reuben Kincaid is a good example showing a group doesn't just need people standing in front. There are characters who exist to keep the tempo balanced, the energy, and help others shine at the right time. Dave Madden did that for many years without needing to make Reuben the loudest character. Sometimes the most important person in a group isn't the one who catches the eye first, but the one who makes everything run better when they are there. That is a value beyond television, because in any team, the people quietly keeping everything connected often leave the clearest void when they are gone. When looking back at classic TV shows, sometimes small moments become large memories in viewers' hearts. Do you remember a supporting actor who appeared very little but still made an impression in a movie or show you love? Please share that character's name in the comments. If you want to continue learning about the stories behind the familiar faces of screens of the past, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos. By the final season of the Partridge Family, Alan Oppenheimer appeared as Lorenzo Bernard Shirley Partridge's art teacher in the episode Art for Mom's Sake. This was just a short appearance, but for Oppenheimer it fell in the middle of a particularly long and diverse career. At the time of joining the show, Oppenheimer already had considerable acting experience. But what is interesting is the part of his career that many generations of audiences remember him for later didn't depend on his face on screen. He became a prominent voice actor with Skeletor in He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, being one of the characters tied to his name.
Yeah! On top of the car! Wasn't even my car or my baby.
This was a very notable shift. In live acting, the body and expressions both contribute to the character. With voice acting, the artist must convey almost all personality through the voice. Oppenheimer was able to adapt to both worlds and maintain a career for many decades.
Yes, he's very shy. That's number one. And I tried, time I did a He-Man, I said to him, if Skeletor and He-Man...
Looking back at Lorenzo Bernard today, the role is like a small tile in a very large picture. And that is what makes Oppenheimer's story memorable sometimes. The ability a person is best known for wasn't the thing that brought them into the profession initially. Being ready to explore a new way of expression can open an entire chapter that the artists themselves might not have imagined before. The next person represents another type of career, constantly appearing in small but diverse roles to accompany American TV through many decades. In the Partridge Family, Yvonne Wilder once appeared as a waitress, but this wasn't her only time in the series. Acting records show Wilder appeared in the show across several episodes, including the character Sheila. This was quite fitting for how Wilder built most of her career. She usually didn't take the central character, but appeared regularly on American TV for many years, bringing personality to supporting roles and helping the world around the main characters feel more natural. Her list of jobs later spanned various shows, from Operation Petticoat to Archie Bunker's Place, Full House, and other projects. Yvonne Wilder passed away in 2021 at the age of 84. If a career is measured only by the number of times a person's name is placed first, artists like Wilder are easily overlooked. But television isn't just made from main characters. A diner needs a waitress, a neighborhood needs neighbors, and a family on screen needs the entire vivid world surrounding them. Small roles don't necessarily create big fame, but when well performed, they make the larger story more believable. That is a type of less noisy contribution that appears in nearly every show audiences have ever loved. There is a detail that needs to be corrected when talking about Gordon Jump. He did not play Mr. Kincaid or Reuben Kincaid in the Partridge Family. Reuben Kincaid was Dave Madden's character. Gordon Jump appeared in the series through many different guest roles, including Father Zach Feldman, Minister Man No. 2, and others. This actually makes Jump's story more interesting than tying him to a single character. He belonged to a class of actors who could return to the same show but play completely different people, a common thing in TV of that era. After the Partridge Family, Gordon Jump had a bigger breakthrough when he became Arthur Carlson in the sitcom WKRP in Cincinnati. That role brought him to a wider audience and became one of the most remembered parts of his career. Jump passed away in 2003 at the age of 71. His journey has a point worth reflecting on. Not every job needs to be a destiny role. There are roles that just help an artist continue learning the trade, building relationships, and preparing for a more suitable opportunity later. For Gordon Jump, small appearances in different shows eventually lay on the path leading to a character audiences remember decades later. And the final profile is also an artist who knew how to exist through flexibility rather than depending on a single famous role. Gino Conforti is another case where the role names in source records should be understood cautiously. He did not simply appear with a restaurant manager role. Records for the Partridge Family show Conforti featured multiple times with different characters. In one episode, he was noted as related to a casino restaurant. In another, he appeared as a chef. That also accurately reflects the type of artist Conforti became. He worked on stage, TV, and film, often taking colorful supporting roles instead of building his entire name around one character. Later, he was also remembered by many audiences for the role of Felipe Gomez in Three's Company. Beside direct acting, Conforti also had work related to voice acting, showing a professional range wider than short appearances on sitcoms. It is quite fitting to end the list with Gino Conforti. The Partridge Family had stars who became icons, child actors who left Hollywood, artists who found greater success later, and people like Conforti simply continuing the craft from one project to the next. Not every career needs a moment that makes the whole world remember a name. For many artists, true achievement lies in the ability to adapt, collaborate, and still find a place for oneself when the entertainment industry constantly changes. And when placing 24 journeys side by side, the Partridge Family leaves something even more interesting than the question, who was most successful? Some found big opportunities after the show, some chose to leave, some spent decades in roles audiences only met for a few minutes. There is no single path after the spotlight changes direction. What is more valuable is what each person did with the next chapter of their life. Looking back at the Partridge Family more than half a century later, the memorable thing is not just who became most famous or who appeared longest. Some spent their whole lives in the entertainment industry. Some left Hollywood. Some found success in radio, stage, TV, or voice acting. Some only kept a few years of fame as a small chapter in their life. But those different paths give us a very practical lesson. Success doesn't have a single shape. Fame can come and go. A role might only last a few seasons, but how a person adapts, continues to learn, chooses what fits themselves, and respects those who accompanied them is what can last longer than the spotlight. Perhaps that is why the Partridge Family still makes many want to look back. Not just to remember an old show, but to see 24 people step out of the same frame and then write 24 completely different journeys. After all, what the Partridge Family leaves behind is not just the songs or memories of a famous sitcom, but the stories of the people who continued to live in their own very separate ways when the show ended. Of today's journeys, which story sticks with you longest? Share your character names and memories in the comments. If you enjoy these returns to classic television, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. See you in the next story.